Hello and welcome back. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend. I'm excited to read a new book to you today called The Most Magnificent Thing by Ashley Spires. I like this book because it talks about something called struggle. We talk in class a lot about how we have struggle time and how that's when we actually are learning. It's when we're struggling. When something's easy for us, we're not really learning anything. We're just applying what we've already learned. So when we have struggle time, that means that we're actually learning. It's a good thing. It can be hard to understand why that can be a good thing, and it can be frustrating, which you're going to see in this book, but it's when we are able to figure things out and learn from those experiences. So while I am reading The Most Magnificent Thing, I have something called Before, During, and After Questions. I have a stack of before, I have a stack of during, and I have a stack of after questions. Now, these are questions that you are supposed to just randomly draw a card, and then you look at the question before you read. You draw one from the before you read pile, and you answer that question. During your reading, you draw a question, and then you answer that question, and then after you draw a question and you answer it. It's important for us to think before, during, and after our reading so we can predict what we think will happen. During our reading, we make sure that we're understanding what we're reading. And then after, we make sure that we have understood what we read by going through what we read before and answering some questions and thinking about our reading. Because if we don't think about our reading, are we really learning anything from our reading? Nope. Okay, so The Most Magnificent Thing by Ashley Spires. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a before question. It says, what clues tell you what the story is going to be about? What clues tell you what the story is going to be about? The Most Magnificent Thing. Okay. I'm looking at the title. I'm not going to give you guys the answer. I think I'm going to let you answer on your own, okay? If you want to do this, if you want to sit at home and you want to write down and you want to just talk about it with your family while you're listening to the read aloud, then you can go ahead and answer the questions. But I'm not going to answer for you. So what clues tell you what the story is going to be about? I'm going to show you the cover. I want you to guess what the story is going to be about just by looking at the cover. Title again is The Most Magnificent Thing. Okay, here is where you would pause the video if you want to talk to your family about it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get to reading. About halfway through, I'm going to pause and I'm going to draw a during card. The Most Magnificent Thing. This is a regular girl and her best friend in the whole wide world. They do all kinds of things together. They race, they eat, they explore, they relax. She makes things, he unmakes things. One day, the girl has a wonderful idea. She is going to make the most magnificent thing. Little dog friend. She knows just how it will look. She knows just how it will work. All she has to do is make it. And she makes things all the time. Easy peasy. First, she hires an assistant. I think she's going to hire her dog. Next, they gather their supplies. They set up somewhere out of the way and they get to work. I love this. She's obviously not out of the way here. She's in the middle of the street, right? There are people riding their bikes, people carrying their groceries. Sorry, guys. And then I love how her mom is there like, what are you doing? The girl tinkers and hammers and measures while her assistant pounces and growls and chews. When she is finished, she steps back to admire her work. She walks around one side. Her assistant examines the other side. It doesn't look right. Her assistant picks it up and gives it a shake. It doesn't feel right either. They are shocked to discover that the thing isn't magnificent or good. It isn't even kind of sort of okay. It is all wrong. The girl tosses it aside and gives it another go. I like that she decides to give it another go. We'll try again. She doesn't give up right away. She smooths and wrenches and fiddles. Her assistant circles and tugs and wags. When she's finished, she stands up and takes a long look at it. The thing is still wrong. She decides to try again. We are at time number 3 now. She's now decided to try for a third time. She's pretty persistent. The girl saws and glues and adjusts. She stands and examines and stares. She twists and tweaks and fastens. She fixes and straightens and studies. She's working really hard. Not quite ready. I think maybe a couple more pages and then I'll answer, or I'll draw my during question. She tries all different ways to make it better. She makes it square, she makes it round, she gives it legs, she even adds an antenna. She makes it fuzzy, she makes it long, short, rough, smooth, big, small. One even smells of stinky cheese. But none of them are magnificent. Her hard work attracts a few admirers, but they don't understand. They can't see the magnificent thing that she has in her mind. She gets mad. She's got this plan all in her head of what she wants to do, and it's not coming out the way. Have you guys ever experienced something like that? I definitely have. When I was in high school, and then when I was also, just doing in my own free time, I like to make art. I like to paint, and I like to draw. And a lot of times I have these ideas in my head, and they just don't come out on paper. Sometimes that happens in writing too, and it can get really frustrating. All right, one more page, and then I'm gonna ask her during question. The angrier she gets, the faster she works. She smashes pieces into shape. She jams parts together. She pummels the little bits in. Her hands feel too big to work, and her brain is too full of all the not right things. If only the thing would just work. Okay, here's your during question. It says, how do you think this story will end? So take a minute, talk to your family, you can pause the video. How do you think this story will end? While you do that, I'm going to take Hans's bone away from him because he's making noise. Bone confiscated. All right, how do you think the story will end? She's frustrated. I don't know. I don't know what she's going to do. All right. Crunch. The pain starts in her finger. It rushes up to her brain, and she explodes. It is not her finest moment. Have you ever just exploded in anger? You've been so upset, that's just how you react. You just get so angry. I am no good at this. I quit. Her assistant suggests a walk. It's not much help at first, but before long she starts to feel different. Bit by bit, the mad gets pushed out of her head. Need another dog. Then they see a guy with balloons, and then she gets a donut. That would make me happy. As they stroll along, she comes across the first wrong thing she made. The bad feelings are about to start all over again. Then she notices something surprising. There are some parts of the wrong things that are all really quite right. The bolts on one, the shape of another, the wheel to seat ratio of next. They are all sorts of parts that she likes. Looks like she's starting to see the good in each and every one of her mess ups. By the time she reaches the end of the trail, she finally knows how to make the thing magnificent. She gets to work. She works carefully and slowly, tinkering, hammering, twisting, fiddling, gluing, painting. Her assistant makes sure that there are no distractions. So this guy says, "This is the perfect thing to ward off bears." She says, "This will stop that leak." He says, "This one's all wet." The afternoon fades into evening, and finally she finishes. She alerts her assistant, who has obviously decided to take a nap. Here we go. Here's your ending. So if you made a prediction about how you think the story will end, here's your ending. All right. The pair take a good long look. It leans a little to the left, and it's a bit heavier than expected. The color could use a bit of work too, but it's just what she wanted. They climb aboard and take it for a spin. They are not disappointed. This really is the most magnificent thing. Look at what they made. She attached a little ride-along cart for her assistant, her dog, to her scooter. I love it. All right, here is your after question. Describe a problem a character had in the story. How was it solved? That's a perfect question for this book. She had a problem the entire time, right? So describe a problem a character had in the story. How was it solved? Okay. You guys feel free to comment with your answers to the questions or just discuss them with your family. I hope you guys enjoyed The Most Magnificent Thing and learned a little bit about how struggle time can often lead us to creating some really magnificent things and learning some really magnificent things. Okay. See you guys tomorrow.